Alejandro Echeverri. Alejandro is an architect with doctorate studies. Alejandro is currently a law fellow at Harvard, but also, of course, the director of Urbam.
Thank you. Thank you. So, buenas tardes. Voy a hablar en inglés porque Luis y los organizadores y los amigos de Harvard nos han pedido que hablemos en inglés porque ellos están grabando las conferencias para una plataforma digital. O sea que ustedes están de malas hoy conmigo, pero voy a tratar de... So, thank you for the invitation. I would like to thank to the GSD, to Luis, to Charles, to the David Rockefeller Center, to Marcela, and for all the support, Helen. And as well, I would like to thank to our sponsors, the Edu and Argos, and the people from Urbam, our team. They have been working very hard to have this event, and so I am very happy for that. So when I was hearing today the different conferences, I was thinking as well in some of the motivations that push us to found Urbam in relation with the reality of and the challenge of our city and our region as well. But I was seeing us like an architects and designers and landscape architects as well, developing the conference. I found very interesting examples, and for me it's very exciting to see a very young people and colleagues and the amount of amazing works, and seen as well Medellín like a lively lab, the region and so on. So it's very exceptional in that sense. But at the same time, the Brigitte talk was as well a very provocative one, because she put us or confront us with a reality, because we are working with a very different area and science as well, that we need to move with cuidado, no? With care as well. And as well, we saw Juan Luis Mejía, our director of the University of EAFIT, his approach about culture and arts as well, and people. And those three together, those battles that represent them, the urban landscape and the architects trying to understand how to operate, the idea of the biologist and the center like the Humboldt that Brigitte leads as well, and the people and the culture as well. I don't know really is an utopia, but this is the dream of Urbam, our center. How to work in transdisciplinary way, how can we develop processes, knowledge, and how some as well learning processes and think tank and consulting and so on, but how can we melt them, designing processes, and put those battles sometimes against one to each other, and sometimes trying to build some complicity between them. So I don't know if we are going to have success or not, but this in one side is our idea. So I as well, you see that I'm sorry. So it's okay. So that I don't remember well, but I think Camilo showed that plan as well, and when we are talking about those processes here, we are talking about the narrative that we are writing here in our region and Colombia as well, and in Medellín specifically. And you cannot understand those narrative if you don't understand the identity, some cultural as well, things and how the territory plays in that. And it's related with our tragedy as well, in terms of the challenge, in terms of the segregation of our cities. But it's very important that for the first time in 1948, José Luis Sert started to develop and work with Paul Lester Binin in the pilot plan of Medellín, and how the nature was, they draw the nature for the first time with the idea of the conception of the planning of the action of the city, linking with some actions of the city. But Medellín forgot for many years, I think between the 60s and 90s, the geography and the condition of the territory disappear in the planning approach. So we didn't start, we lose the notion of the river, the notion of the ravines as well. And from some years until today, of course, the reality pushed us to confront with those conditions. And you see today all the processes and amazing work competition that has some things in common, that links with geography, links with context, links as well like an architect trying to understand. We developed in Urbam the Plan BO 230. We finished that plan in 2011, trying to define as well some strategic visions linked, but the notion of those strategic visions belongs with the complexity and the problems of the city as well, but some qualities as well, like the condition of the access of the river, but as well the challenge of the slopes and the different typologies that this metropolitan area has to solve or has to work with as well. So Juan Luis Mejia shows that image as well. And if you see the films from Victor Gaviria, for example, Rodrigo de No Futuro, and where the film happens, in the barrios, in the terraces as well, and some pictures of Victor Gaviria, that image for me is amazing. It's one of the best representations of our territory in terms of the flat area of Medellín with all the infrastructures at downtown, the intermediate level that used to be informal, and where the urban integral projects happen mostly, and the dynamic of occupation and the battle between the water, the landslides, and the active occupation that is happening in the upper part. So, but Freddy Serna, I was talking with him many years ago, and he told me that he didn't know what the horizon line means when he was 18. After his birthday at that time, he has the money to go to the ocean, to have holidays, and to go to the beach. And that was the first time that he understand well what the horizon line means to him. So that thing is important because when you are talking about narratives, when you are talking about as well the identities, and has to be how can we and how we understand the territory and what is the image of the territory. This image belongs that a research that I did many years ago when I went to Barcelona to study Medellín, following the creeks and to understand what is the condition on the urban fabric and the relation with the people as well. But during that time, we developed some workshops in the University UPB with Annie Vélez, with some of you that some of you showed that some projects are trying to start to understand as well how to act to our territory, how can we improve, but as well understanding that friction as well. When I was in the government many years ago, I'm not going to explain. Of course, this condition was explicit, and the friction and the conflict between those areas that used to be informal, the condition on the hills, the creeks, the way that some of the informal barrios and the process of occupation happens, and some others in the low part. This is the river and the metro station. But that image shows in some way what is the reality and what forced us to work with as well. trying to to find some solution. This is the 107th Paseo Andalucía and the Juan Bobo Ravine, where the project of housing happens. So both together, but during that time, our priority was the infrastructure, how to solve housing, how to improve housing, how to link, and to give accessibility and porosity, and how happens the itinerary of the common people, and how to work in some holistic way. But some questions still be there in the territory. And of course, you see that the lack of how the nature, during that time, our priority wasn't the condition of the logic of the creek in terms of the nature and the landscape. But this is our reality as well. So, thinking more like an architect in infrastructures, very important to solve the problems of accessibility, the links between La Francia, through the bridge to Paseo Andalucía, to the cable cars station as well, and how the housing projects after some years happen as well. So during that time was the time of work with those itineraries, mostly with architecture, with social and economic processes and educations and so on. But our city as well has other big questions as well. So we finish, and I finish in the government, and with Juan Luis Mejia, the director of the University of EAFIT, we decide to co-found Urbam, our center, and we start to put the question of environment, this is the M at the end, trying to move from infrastructure, the logic that we know, not perfect, but we have some practice about it, and how can we develop processes linking with local and social processes, but as well trying to incorporate from the beginning the logic of the environment. So we start to work in Medellín and in other regions in the country and in other places, mostly our focus was to design processes in terms through the projects, but trying to develop some different knowledge and in different scales, local scales and strategic vision as well. So we develop, I am not going to tell you and to show you, we are working in the Urabá region. We did the proyectos municipales integrales from Urabá, access between Apartadó, Gorodó, some intermediate cities. But we are doing a very beautiful project that I am not going to talk about, the social and economic cartography and cultural cartography of the Atrato River. Is in the middle of the jungle as well. Completely different approach we used to do as well. We are learning a lot. So I am going to finish with an example, a project that we developed in partnership with Christian Wertmann and his research group. We start when he was in Harvard, and he's today in Hanover. I think some of you knows that project that is in the intermediate phase as well. With that questions that the picture of Freddy Serna shows us, we continue trying to develop how can we build a process that could produce a more sustainable condition in a very complex situation in the hills, in the upper hills of Medellín. This is not the Greenbelt project, but we developed simultaneously to the Greenbelt as well, trying to build a parallel agenda, a different approach that belongs more to the logic of occupation, the informal occupation, as well to the logics of how the condition of risk, the condition of soil, and the condition of ravines. So our focus, and is today our focus because we are looking for resources to develop the pilot projects, was move to consolidation that we knew, not in our experience of the city, to the concept of anticipation and co-creation with the community, trying to build another agenda of the work. So most of you knows the complexity. I don't know if we are going to solve it. It's impossible to solve with an ideal image that condition. So it's a lively process. You have to develop porosity, you have to be very flexible, you have to understand many different forces and as well and actors. So we don't have an image, a fixed image that we want to do. We develop some scenarios as well. And like always we do, we develop the condition of the big picture, but we focus in a very specific area to develop a detailed lecture and detailed data and a detailed processes and detailed actions that you can replicate in different places as well. So we select La Cruz and La Honda in the northeast part of Medellín, and we define a new plan that combines low-cost risk mitigation for current residents with a plan to steer growth to safer areas as well. And we define different steps, we define different methodology, we build the definition of the problem, we select the site, and we study the site between two ravines. It's the identity of Medellín as well. And we study the standard approach and what were the problems of that. We define the alternative approach, the toolbox of strategies, the land typologies. We define pilot projects and what has to happen after that. So we are in the number 5 as well. Between 5 and 6, we are trying to look for resources to develop the pilot projects. So I'm not going to explain in detail, but one of the most important parts of the work is that we have a very strong relation with the local actors, some local associations as well, and today they work with us in many different projects in Medellín as well. It's very important for us because we are building a completely different information, but the most important is a different kind of dialogue with trust and the confidence from the beginning. So we did some diagrams about how the process of informal occupation happens in different typologies, because if you want to solve the process of occupation, you cannot use only the control of the government. That is not going to happen. Maybe you can find, and it's possible to find some processes that the community used to occupy from the beginning to solve the process and to protect some areas as well. With the team from Germany, they help us a lot. I am not going to show all the studies and so on, how the territory changed because after the human actions, and how the risk, the community increased the risk, trying to understand in a small scale as well, and also we did different plans and information as well. So this is the project. In terms of the regional study, how was the state of art of the metropolitan area in the condition of the east side of the mountain with the geologic problem that you see in red here, the site case, the pilot projects, and the idea, and is the idea, after we develop the pilot projects, the idea is to replicate and to define a methodology for the types of hills and slopes that has something in common with that kind of occupation. It's not all the Medellín is not like that. So this is only an example of some kind of approach that we developed in Urbam. But I'm going to finish with a more personal reflection or thinking. This image belongs to this is Medellín, as well with Envigado and Bello, and those are the ravines that exist in Medellín, still exist today. So it's an amazing structure, and if you are thinking in ravines against the river, that is not against because it's the same system. So you have to know that the ravines are along all the barrios of the city, where the people are. And as well, we did that diagram that is 12 minutes walking distance from each ravine. You can say that every 12 minutes you can find a ravine in every place of the city. So thinking in that system, I'm not going to talk you saw some connection with the other processes about the ravines. I think we have a very beautiful challenge. How can we innovate, how can we incorporate in different manners those systems, and as well in terms of innovation. So I am going to read that text. Before I used to write to the regional newspaper, and I found old column, those fragments of the old column that talk about the ravines, in terms of illusion, and in terms of the future, I think. So nature has drawn Medellín with its ravines. It was a gift. We get proof of this when we walk to the city. Anywhere we go to, there is always a ravine. It's not a dream to imagine our city with hundreds of green corridors close to our homes. Our illusion will be that the name that defines the identity of each one of our neighborhoods or barrios, the name that would identify us in the city and define us each, would be the name of our closest ravine. And the names are amazing. Yo soy de la Negra, la Loca, la Caravieja, el Ahorcado, el Chorroscuro, el Salado, el Malpaso, la Honda, la Altavista, la Esmeralda, las Violetas, la Milagrosa, la Presidenta, la Señorita. Esos son apenas unos nombrecitos. We have more than 200 ravines in the city of Medellín itself. So, thinking in the narrative, thinking in our urban narrative as well and in our moment, I think the identity of the territory as well is a very important part. And the condition of our territory teach us a lot. And the thing that we see today in the conference in terms of a very important number of young architects working with our territory with different sensibility. But as well, I am sure that we have a challenge how to understand better those processes and how to work with more knowledge and as well with more precision in terms of the nature and in terms of the social challenge that we have. So I think is an amazing opportunity to continue the narrative of Medellín and in our region in different dimensions as well. And to build a narrative, you have to connect with the tragedies, you have to connect with the dreams, but you have to develop the narrative with actions. And Medellín is a place with actions. We see today. And I think it's a very exceptional situation. So thanks for the organization and for the GSD, Charles and Luis, and Helen and Marcela. And the idea today is to continue and to finish with a panel of conclusion. And I invite Ciro, Catalina, Camilo, and Luis, please, to have some questions and to open as well the conversation to the scenario, and Charles, of course. Thank you.